This is how you grow food and regenerate a landscape. Syntropic agroforestry up in the dry tropics of Costa Rica, but you can do this anywhere. You can do this in the humid tropics, you can do this in cold, temperate climates, Mediterranean. You can do this work anywhere. And this is what it looks like. Here's the process, the actual blueprints, the practical, technical how-tos. These guys are doing the research. This is how we do it. This is how we create the future that we all want to see.
My name is Javi. I'm the farm manager here at Tierra Amor, and my role here is to participate in the design of the systems and then coordinate all of the management once we've installed the systems. My mentor is Scott right here.
I'm Scott, Porvenir Design, and yeah, our roles in the whole project, trying to be pretty big picture, like mantener, like maintain the, like what is this long-term experimental vision of this place, and apply that layer, and then really be in like pretty constant dialogue, brainstorming about what's working, what's not, where do you need support, and I think offering a lot of just like second opinions and confirming ideas, and sometimes being like, that could be done better. Never with Javi, that's with the other people. Yeah, so I show up and I point at things and then I leave, and Javi is the one like making all the action happen on the ground.
You guys are awesome. So we're a week and a half into this 2-week permaculture design course here in Costa Rica, and we're just now getting into the very detailed and deep dive into the syntropic agroforestry. We're analyzing these 2 systems that were planted 11 months ago. We're going to come in and do some management intervention, preparing for planting in the rainy season. It's been so valuable to walk around with Scott and Javi to see what's been working well, what's not been working well, adjustments, tweaking. You'll find a lot of value out of this video. Keep growing. We'll see you soon. So we're just preparing for the syntropic agroforestry component of this 2-week course, checking out systems that were planted about a year ago, confirming what trees are still in here, where things are at, what's made it through the dry season, what hasn't. Let's see what we got.
Oh, yeah, a little photogenic doggy.
So we're trying to figure out, we're confirming what we had on paper with what we have in the field. We're positive we need like a significant number more secondary 2 and climax emergence, probably more placenta 2 species that can potentially hold up to the wind.
Yeah.
And so this is for the expansion up here, probably a replant of some things in here. We want to change some things where you can see like the turmeric is grown on the edge here. There's still turmeric in here. And so what we found, really Javi and team, was that having all the tubers and roots growing on the edge, it made the mulching hard to get to the center. It was like, are you gonna cover up the tubers? You know, the vegetation, you just crush this. And so, especially ginger and turmeric, which we don't need that much of, it's like so productive, it's gonna get concentrated in the center instead of on the edge. And so these little micro adjustments for me are like amazing, right? It's where we learn so much. So just hearing how you guys have found what's working, what's not. You want that? Yeah, delicious. Tastes like muddy.
So the main structure was ojoche, citrus, banana, citrus, ojoche.
Just add more bananas
And
and everything.
Just like adding bananas in between the citrus and the ojoche.
There's a good chance with some of these bananas, like that one at the end there, that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Like when the rains come, like cut it completely at the base.
So they resprout.
With all new hijos, instead of like it trying to struggle through whatever's left of it there at the very end. Yeah, and so the other thing we found, which like this this yucca, which looks amazing, and the wind comes this way, so it's like the first row or the last row, so it gets a lot of windbreak. It's nursing this citrus pretty well. This is no irrigation. It's gonna live through the dry season, which is kind of impressive. But when this gets harvested, it's just doing a lot of damage to that root system. Like in hindsight, like you can see one was taken out here and it just leaves like all of this mess. So either it needs to be taken out like in the rainy season where there's still these cycles of growth. We can get that soil covered, it's not so desiccated. Or like a yucca like this is just a nurse plant. Like you don't harvest this ever. Like this is just, you know, it's given a little bit of shade, little afternoon shade, not that much.
This is the
it's not
same as
nothing.
cassava.
Yeah, yucca's cassava.
How are you guys planting it? Are you just putting sticks straight down?
Sticks at an angle, and usually what you do is you angle them. So it'll be like a little stick.
Yeah. Because the angle of how you're planting it determines where the roots go.
Yeah, that's the theory. Like, I don't know how true that is, but this is definitely what I've been taught. Here, people don't plant it like this at all. This is like a thing coming very much from syntropic practitioners. If we put it in at this angle, the roots are going to go out this way. And so if we're planting, like sometimes we'll plant right next to a fruit tree to protect the young fruit tree. Like I'll want this stem growing right up there, but I'm going to send that root out that way. But it's always a balance. Like at least with the dry season, at least, it seemed like pulling these out just caused a lot of destruction. And we probably lost some of the fruit trees because of that. Where it's just like so dry, and all of a sudden there's so much more access for sun, wind to hit that exposed soil.
The initial plan wasn't to harvest the cassava.
Okay, it was to leave it.
It was to leave it, but the guys were looking for cassava, and they're like, "Oh, we have cassava right here, so we're going to harvest it."
And then, all right, let's hop to the next row. So then we're gonna do a half-meter pass. We're gonna do a wider Mombasa row, and then this original design. This was full of Botón de Oro, mulberry, which there's some left, but it's really not the climate for it. And then Nacerero, which same thing. It's just not the climate for it. Although it'll be interesting to see these mulberries, Javi, that like survive, how they do year 2 in the rains.
They're probably gonna explode.
Probably. So we're gonna make the Mombasa rows wider, 1.1 meters. And then we're gonna shift all tubers to this, like, we'll call it a B line. And this will be then intercropped with more tall, emergent papaya, moringa. What else do we talk about? Bucana, igarija, the castor bean. And so we'll go probably every half meter. Ideally have an emergent high, and in between there, malanga, the sweet potato not so much. It's too low, but the turmeric, ginger, malanga. Trying to prune the retainer. Okay, so here then, these are our avocado, mango, cashew rows that alternate. So it goes the emergent medium, which is a Hoche citrus, and it drops in here mango. The next one is cashew, the next one's avocado, etc. The plan is to drop low cacao coffee in here eventually. 2-3 years. Ojalá, we'll see. The mango don't give a shit. They're just like so happy.
This is a planting pattern that these guys are using here for their agroforestry system, is alternating rows, where in one row you're planting the emergent and the medium strata layers, and the other row alternating you're planting the high and low layers. Gives space, especially in a more commercial system where production is important. Having less canopy clutter, complexity per line, more productivity, still the diversity across the whole system. Super fascinating.
The mango. Here, pipa. Granada.
So emergent, medium, high, low.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You guys find that works quite well? Not having so much chaos in each line.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to produce. Like you could have everything in the same row, but I would space the rows further apart, and then it needs more management, more frequent management.
It's really interesting to see where what do they call the seed balls? I always forget the name in Portuguese.
Muvuca.
Muvuca. Popped up there. Popped up there. Decent.
The seed bombs.
Nothing else.
That's
Doral should be a winner. That's gonna get so big this year. How many things are gonna?
So these guys here are working with a very similar dynamic. The main difficult part of the season or the year is the dry season, whereas for me it's frost. Here, the difficult thing is dry season. So they've gone 4 or 5 months, 0 rain, and the systems are suffering, and that's the big intervention that the system faces. The system faces that same intervention at my place, but it's frost. So whether it's frost or a dry season, this is the end of the system's suffering. I'll come back in 6 months and you'll see it's lush, abundant, such a different system than we see here now. So this is not a representation of how things are year-round. Obviously it's really dry and everything is quite desiccated, but man, a couple months of rain is going to make all the difference. It'd be so cool to see. There should be some before and after footage if you guys check out what the system looked like during the rainy season, night and day. That's what makes agroforestry so dynamic, so fun, and just such an interesting process-based agriculture than anything you've ever seen.
Same thing. Alright, so what do we replace these with? Do we do the fancy mangoes? Do we get like these $200 mangoes? Is that in the budget? I don't know what the budget is anymore. I've lost. I've stopped. Like, look how bad. Like, that just is tough.
So what's that from?
Avocado, which needs, it's. We're just learning it needs a little bit more irrigation than none, and then 2 pieces of yucca ripped out that just did too much damage. No one took the time afterwards to really like put the soil back, cover the soil again. Just management, learning ourselves, crews, everybody, puppies. Help be useful. Nantes is great though. Man, this is just, we could plant, there was a fair amount, but it's not in the Ojote row. It's only in the fruit rows. And it's maybe the most like leaf biomass right now of all the plants is the Nance. This is a native fruit. It's not a very tasty fruit, although many Costa Ricans like it. There are grafted ones, but I don't know. Would we ever plant a grafted Nance? No, you say no too. It's not a tasty fruit in my opinion. But it's just so happy. It doesn't care at all. Like it's doing more photosynthesis than anything else in this field at the moment.
So why wouldn't you just stack the whole?
Yeah, like can we plant, how many more Nantes can we plant? Can we get like that many more?
Those ones came from Ise, the trees that were donated by Ise.
Okay. Alright, we need what? 800 Nantes?
So how long has this system been in the ground?
This was planted in May last year.
May last year. So what is that, like 10?
11 months, yeah.
This is an 11-month-old system at the end of the dry season. No irrigation.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what worked, what didn't work, and as we get further this way, the wind just like has crushed the system down. Like there's trees that are 5 meters over here, but this is interesting. So we tried 2 different rows. So this is almost north-south, right? Like north is that way, and so we made a compromise. We're going to go up and down the slope because we didn't want to do this kind of awkward angle. And this is close to contour. These parallel offset rows. And to see what we like better. And this is way easier to manage. Like to walk, which is always what you'll hear from syntropic practitioners in Brazil. Planting up and down the slopes easier to manage. And planting it, everything felt true. This feels like it might be more protected though.
Yeah.
Like why? Like it doesn't, like the Boton de Oro seems happier. I don't know.
I wonder if that's the wind passing like across the rows rather than like through.
Yeah. Right, it's almost like the wind comes this way, so the row, the trees themselves in the row start forming a little windbreak. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can see the system here doesn't really put on a whole lot of biomass until like further down that way, which is all the wind just cuts and right through these rows. Whereas like when you're stacking against the main wind. Interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So this is what we're gonna give maintenance to, Byron. We're gonna, in 2 days, around this time, we'll come out here. We're gonna cut all the Mombasa grass down. We'll lay it wherever Javi tells us, wherever there's bare soil, which is usually the pattern. And then we'll go through each tree line and okay, what do we need to clip off? Like what's in senescence? Like take off these banana leaves that are dying. Like this citrus here has a chupon, like a rootstock sucker coming up. We'll hit each of those things. We'll get into details with people. And so that'll be, it's like 4 rows of Mombasa grass. Hopefully all down. It should go pretty fast with everyone. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some actual physical work though.
And maybe we do it with the weed whacker. And people just grab the Mombasa and put it in place.
You could start one end with the weed whacker and let whoever wants to do hand stuff on the other side.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, it's nice. Some people do the hands, the machete.
So this is a fascinating experiment. They planted 2 agroforestry systems. One downhill right here, the rows running up and down the slope, perpendicular to contour, which is contrary to all the conventional permaculture wisdom of planting everything on contour. That was the first system. The second system they planted with contour along the slope, and they're noticing some differences. The first difference is that the system where the tree lines are planted up and down the slope, so perpendicular to contour, way easier to manage. Walking up and down the slope is much better than walking along the slope. So much easier for management, which is the main work. The main work in agroforestry is management. That's so important to make it as easy as possible and efficient as possible. The second observation, though, tends towards the other direction of favoring across the slope on contour. Now the benefit here is they're seeing more sheltering effects from the rows being stacked in line with the prevailing winds, rather than the wind absolutely cutting right through this system that's facing down the slope. These lines right here, which are running across the slope on contour, have a lot more wind protection just by the nature of how the rows are oriented along the wind. So that's super interesting. Really, really great to have that practical, like side-by-side experiment of on contour and off contour. It always depends on the context. That's the answer.
Rototilled. And then one group can start laying out the string, the macate. And then if people want to run the rototiller, cool. So we're gonna go, we're putting an essential path here. There is a division.
Wait, zoom out. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so this was the same system. Last year we were like, all right, maybe we'll be able to finish this whole thing. It was like, no, it's too much. So this became a kitchen garden. There's like remnants of tomatoes and eggplants and stuff throughout this. And so we just let that go to kitchen garden. So now the system's gonna get expanded. And how big is this space?
The whole thing is around 2,500 meters.
Okay, so this is probably like 1,000?
Yeah.
About 1,000 square meters. One of the observations, which, it's like things and then you're in it and you're like, gets confirmed, is that these lines were just too long. Like to give maintenance to them during the installation, you can just see it becomes tiring. So we'll create a more
30
defined,
meters?
Hmm?
They're 30 meters?
No, these were 40, yeah. Because I think those are 20? Yeah. So there'll be a central path going up and down the slope. And then this half will basically repeat this pattern with our adjustments. And that half will be a true accumulation system where, I don't know, we're working this out, but do we add any compost? No compost?
No compost.
Roca? I would say we should add roca,
Yeah.
but not compost. Like do a remineralization, and no mulch. Like I want no mulch because that's what takes so much effort. Is like how do you get enough mulch to cover this when there's nothing growing on it? So can we grow all the mulch for the system? Like you're thinking about weeding it then, right? That's what it gets crazy. How do you weed that?
The first time when you don't have the mulch.
How do we find out how to start a system with almost zero inputs? Particularly the mulch, man. The mulch is a lot of work. It's like trucks of wood chips. What do you think?
I'm worried about erosion.
Okay.
That's what worries me. Like,
Yeah. Exposed soil.
yeah. But I would just plant everything with seeds, Mombasa everywhere, fast growing things, like things that we can prune in 1 or 2 months.
Maybe you mulch like every fourth row, where almost like a swale, like a dead barrier. So we're gonna concentrate a few areas where we know soil can't flow down slope, because we have these little places we can capture it. That might be a way to approach it. Or you just mulch the tree rows, and the in between, like the Mombasa rows, like Mombasa's not getting mulched. Sorry, Mombasa, you gotta take care of yourself. No say.
See?
That's what we're trying to figure out. So we have a course in June. You probably won't see this video before then. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, you will. Professional. So if you'd like
Come to the
help us
course.
install this. The course is in Spanish. Va a estar en español. Quizás Byron viene y va a traducir. You ready to
I'll
translate?
do my best.
Yeah, you good. You probably do pretty good.
Actually, that'd be interesting.
Like you'd be surprised.
That's an interesting idea. Translating for a Spanish course.
I mean, everyone there will speak English, so.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe if I bring some English people.
If you bring a bunch of English people, we can figure out translation. But don't tell anyone else that. I wouldn't do that for everyone. It's just a pain in the butt. Or you can convince Javi
No.
to translate.
I'll try my best at translation. See how far we get.
Okay.
This is super fascinating. So this is the area that was left over, not planted at the installation last year, more of like an annual space, and now splitting it into. I love that you guys are always split testing things. Now they're split testing like raw accumulation system, like almost no inputs, no mulch, no amendments,
Only rock dust.
only rock dust. And so there's split testing, accumulation system with like pretty much nothing, and then the other system is going to have mulch, compost, all the goodies, edible species,
The MailChimp AB campaign.
like a
Who
MailChimp
does the
campaign.
most clicks?
Yeah, split testing. Awesome. Absolutely recommend for agroforestry. And what's the benefit of that? Hey, what's the purpose behind doing that split testing? And you guys have obviously seen the value in it in trialing the on contour and the off contour. What's the value of these split tests?
I think you can learn a lot more. Like if you're looking for specific things to improve, then it's easier to take that data and make decisions with that, instead of doing everything the same and then how do you change things up the next time. You know, it's like adjusting little details.
Yeah. And so you're liking managing those ones more up and down.
Yeah,
These
and
ones are really long.
those ones are shorter, so you finish one and you have energy to go into the next one, and it's easier to flow in a shorter row than in a longer row.
It was endless.
Yeah, feels like you're going on forever. So it's like having those like short accomplishments that you can keep going, and when you accomplish one row, you're like excited to go into the next one because you already feel good about finishing the first row.
Yeah, that was like some systems in Brazil, hey. Yeah, there were some. Let's see what we're doing. There were some systems like that in Brazil where it was like 50-meter tree lines, and by the end you'd get to the 50 meters and it was just like you were exhausted and you didn't want to start the next one. Versus like a 20-meter row, you get to the end, you're like, ooh, we can do this, we got it, and you keep going. Yeah, good feedback.
I mean, this is all gonna get tilled, so.
Well, before you tilled, will you like remove the organic material? Like, would you scrape this bed off before you till?
I think we should. Otherwise, it's gonna be a harder work once it's underground.
Do you want to bring the tractor in, or just the rototiller?
No, just a rototiller.
So some rakes.
Like as this gets mixed in, it's.
Make a mess. Plus, this stuff hasn't been harvested. Hey,
No.
There's too much.
too much turmeric.
There's so much. It's like. When it grows well, it's infinite.
Whereas at my place, it just does not like it. It's too wet.
I mean, where we're gonna go next in San Carlos, Finca Luna Nueva, that was a turmeric farm until like a strain of Fusarium came in and just wiped it out. And so now it's really hard for us to grow turmeric there, even though it's like known for turmeric and ginger.
Wow.
These drier climates help with the fungal issues, so that's an advantage here.
This is how we do it. This is how we create the future that we all want to see. That's why I'm so passionate about this stuff. It feels like the most meaningful work that I could possibly do with my life. I can't think of anything more meaningful than this. Is reforesting the landscape, reconnecting with what it means to be a human as part of the ecosystem, growing food for the community, for your family, for the wildlife, just facilitating and like helping the earth regenerate. It'll do it on its own. If we just like leave a piece of land alone for 100 years, it will regenerate. But doing agroforestry, we can expedite that and do it like 10 times faster while producing food for the community, while producing an abundance of materials, resources, wood, fibers, medicines, fodder for animals. You can create agroforestry systems specifically for animal integration, specifically for just like reforesting large slopes and big patches of land that don't necessarily need to be food forest, but just regenerative agroforestry. This work is so important and it's so compelling and it's sexy because, you know, you call it a food forest, but really it's so much deeper than that. And that's why I'm so compelled by this work. That's why I'm so drawn to it. That's why I'm so nourished. That's why I stay up so late. That's why I don't do anything but work, because it's so meaningful to me. And especially with this work with the Food Forest Pioneers and the fellowship that we've just started, it's all like, it wasn't a big master plan. It's just how things have unfolded as a result of just pursuing relentlessly that thing that universe is telling me this is what I'm meant to be doing. And listening to that has given me nothing but incredible experiences, whether it was in Brazil, here in Costa Rica, the Pioneers program, the new fellowship program. Life is really rewarding when you follow that intuition. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been a fantastic week and a half so far. There's so much more to go. I don't know how much of this you're seeing, but this is how we do it. We grow food, we restore the ecosystems, and we re-engage with our local ecology. Keep growing. See you on the next one.
You can be. I trust your discernment.
Yeah.
The pro and con of working on someone else's land. It's like the con is that you're probably never going to give it like every fucking thing you have the way you would on your own property. And I admire people that can do that. I did that for years and then hit a point where it's like I'm not going to, crush my back on someone else's land every day. Do it occasionally. But then the pro is that we get to be experimental and learn. And like one day when Javi has his farm, whatever, right on the beach there, so he can surf. Like he doesn't know so much, and so it's a blessing to be able to work from these places where the business model's not based on farming. And so then that's our responsibility to experiment. So you're asking earlier, like, why do these two systems side by side that are different? It's like, man, if like we're the only people that can experiment in this way. Like there's this layer of capital that comes from other sources, and so that becomes our great responsibility. And so the hope is that we document things well, which I think we do overall, man, a pretty damn good job of, because it's a lot of work. And then these moments where we can share it, like this, courses, open houses, more blogs, more videos.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this saying that I've been hearing and feeling into a lot recently, which says, "To those who have much, much is expected." Leave you with that.
Yeah, it's perfect.